WCC weekly recap on Gonzaga Nation SI. I'm your host, Dan Dickau, where we take a look back at the games over the previous week. We look ahead to the upcoming week of games and what to look out for, or what to keep an eye on, as well as kind of quickly glance at the standings. The standings of the WCC, as would be expected, Gonzaga sits atop at 10-0. St. Mary's 8-3. It looks as if Gonzaga, barring a complete and utter collapse, will be outright league champs again. They would have to lose all four games for that to be the case. So don't see that happening. USF comes in at 8-4. Santa Clara 7-4. BYU 7-5. After picking up 2 wins this week after dropping 4 in a row. USD, the Toreros continue to play well at 7-6. The Portland Pilots 4-6. This in Shante Legan's first year after not having won a single game in conference a season ago. So they're definitely trending in the right direction. Pacific at 2-8. LMU continues to struggle, even though I like some of their pieces at 2-9. And Pepperdine at 1-11. So the Waves have a lot of work to do to continue to trend in the right direction. They've got some good freshman talent, but Coach Lorenzo Romar hasn't been able to put it all together this season the way maybe he would have hoped or would have thought. But it's not going to get any easier because they play Gonzaga at home on Wednesday of this week. But we'll take a quick look back at the games in the past week. On Thursday, St. Mary's knocked off USD 86-57. BYU barely got by LMU in LA 83-82 in overtime. Which kind of has foreshadowed the season for BYU. They're still living on the bubble of the NCAA tournament. Their net's around 51. Lenardi has them in as the last team in, but they can't afford any slip-ups, so that would have been a big loss, as it would have been a big loss as well had they not beaten Pepperdine on Saturday, which we'll touch on in a second. But then the other games on Thursday night, USF continues their strong play, a 105-61 victory against Pepperdine, where Gabe Stefanini had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. So it wasn't just Bouye, it wasn't Shabazz, it wasn't Masalski, it was Stefanini with a big game on Thursday night. And then for Gonzaga, they knocked off Pacific 89-51 at home. Rajir Bolton, the terrific grad transfer, had 20 points for Gonzaga in that one on Thursday night. But we go now to Saturday's slate of games. USF went to Santa Clara and won 74-58. Masalski had a double-double, 19 and 10. That's a big game simply for the fact that that is now considered a quad one win, because Santa Clara is top 75 in the net, and it's a road win, so that becomes a good win for USF, who's still solidly in the NCAA tournament at this time. They just can't afford any slip-ups. BYU traveled to Pepperdine in a game that was on CBS Sports Net. They won 91-85, and Alex Barcelo had a tremendous afternoon. 9 threes for Alex Barcelo. He was actually 9 of 10 from beyond the three-point line. Someone who was early in the season shooting upper 40 percentages from the three-point line. Teams started focusing in even more and taking things away from him, which you would imagine because Harward as well as Baxter have been out with injuries throughout the course of the year. That's their 2 big guys that would have provided them a little bit of scoring punch, but also the ability to have to focus in on those guys. So it's made life difficult for Barcelo and BYU at times. USD knocks off Pacific on Saturday, 60-54. And if you look at Pacific outside of that game against Gonzaga on Thursday night, they're really showing signs of playing much better basketball. Their record does not necessarily reflect that at 2-8, but they beat BYU at home. They took St. Mary's deep into the second half. Same with San Francisco. They went on the road and played 17th ranked, I believe, USC tough. And so they're playing better basketball. It just hasn't resulted in wins. And then also on Saturday night would have been the Portland Pilots knocking off Loyola Marymount 86-76. And we had that triple-double. Tyler Robertson triple-double, 31 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists, a tremendous game. But then in the headliner game on Saturday, Gonzaga goes down, hosted St. Mary's, and they beat them 74-58 behind another performance that was very solid from Drew Timme. I believe it was 25 points early in that first half. He kind of really, set the bar, set the tone as far as he was going to be a force on the inside. You got to give St. Mary's a lot of credit, though. Gonzaga was up early. They battled back. They made it interesting, and then just too much talent in the ability to play at the pace that they want for Gonzaga in the end. I mentioned the pace. Yes, St. Mary's had the game at their pace for quite some time, but it's only a matter of time before either Gonzaga gets the stops or they get the turnovers and is able to really get out and push the way they want. So that was the results from the previous week. This week we've got another interesting week coming up for the WCC. We're going to really kind of start solidifying, I would think, 2 through 5. And even 6, because I think what you're going to start seeing is a little bit more clarity on seeding in the WCC tournament. Obviously, the top 2 get double byes, which at this moment will be Gonzaga, and then what looks as if it's going to be St. Mary's, but you never know because St. Mary's and USF have a huge game later this week, which is in Moraga. But the week slate of games, Santa Clara and Portland were supposed to play on Monday. That game was canceled, and Portland has rescheduled a game or refilled their schedule with a game on Tuesday with a non-Division I opponent, Bushnell. So that'll be interesting to follow and see how they play, because like I said, they've been playing much better, but they've got to get kind of firing on all cylinders to see if they can't creep up maybe into 6th and be a big time surprise, because we're talking about seeding in the WCC tournament, and that is big to try to get a bye and then stay away from Gonzaga's side of the bracket to see if you can't make a run. Other games this week on Tuesday, USF will be at Pacific. I mentioned Pacific is playing much better. USF can't afford any slip-ups right now. They've already kind of maxed out with the amount of bad losses that they can have. So I think the only games moving forward that USF can kind of absorb as a loss need to be quad 1 losses, and that would be St. Mary's, Gonzaga. But that being said, I don't think when they go to St. Mary's on Thursday, they need to win that game to lock up or put themselves in an even better position come Selection Sunday, with a lot of basketball still left to be played, the final week, and then the WCC tournament. But Gonzaga will play on Wednesday at Pepperdine. Game initially was supposed to be played earlier in the season, was supposed to be played on Thursday. That game was moved to Wednesday, I believe for television purposes, as that game will be on ESPN2. Other Thursday games, we've already touched on USF and St. Mary's and how big and important that game is for the league. But USD goes to Portland, where USD looks to continue to kind of hold steady to that 6th spot. That's important because USD at 7-6, the Pilots at 4-6. You never know how the last couple weeks shake out if Portland can get to that 6th seed for the WCC conference tournament. Santa Clara is at LMU. That's big because Santa Clara has been the upstart in the league, kind of really challenging, for that top 4 spot, because as of now, they're sitting in 4th at 7-4, while BYU is on the outside looking in at 5th with a 7-5 conference record, although, as mentioned, a couple of the bracketologists still have BYU in the NCAA tournament field at this point. Saturday's games are a lot of the same. I mean, we're going to be saying that for the next 2 weeks leading into conference tournament play, how important things are, because, Pepperdine goes to University of Portland. Santa Clara is at Gonzaga for senior night. BYU is at St. Mary's, so that's an enormous game. for BYU. I think, and I would love to see 4 WCC teams. I still think there are going to be 4 WCC teams in the tournament, but BYU needs that win in Moraga on Saturday. LMU is at Pacific as well to round out the schedule for this week of upcoming games in the WCC. Great stuff going on right now. Gonzaga back as the number one team in the country in the AP poll when it was released this morning. The coaches poll has not been announced as of this recording, but I would imagine Gonzaga is going to be number one in the coaches poll as well. St. Mary's has dropped out of the poll. They were 22 last week. Obviously, they lost to Gonzaga. If you kind of count out the others receiving votes, St. Mary's would be 29th in the AP. But at this point of the year, it's all about net rankings. It's all about KenPom. It's all about getting yourself playing your best basketball leading into conference tourney week. And I think if you look at stretches of that St. Mary's Gonzaga game, St. Mary's is putting things all together extremely well. So that being said, great week of WCC basketball coming up. When you want your content, you want your information, go to Gonzaga Nation SI. We've got it on all social media platforms. We've got articles, we've got shows, we've got podcasts. Check us out, like, subscribe, and review for all the current content and updates.